The last time Amara stood in that garden, they told her she would give the family nothing. No child, no heir, no future worth the name. Today she walked back into it, holding 3. Everything between those 2 afternoons is this story. The estate sat behind a wall in the hills above Kobe. White gravel, black pines. 400 guests waited for a wedding. The groom was the most feared man in the west of Japan. His name was Kaito. 5 years before, he had a different wife, a doctor, a foreign one. The family had erased her so cleanly most guests never knew she existed. They were about to. By the end of this, the most dangerous man in that garden stops breathing at his own wedding. Not from a blade, from the sight of 3 small boys, with his own eyes. Before we get into it, if you're here for the ones who were thrown away and came back standing, take a second to subscribe. It helps this channel reach the people who need it. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from tonight. I read every single one. Now, let me tell you who she was before they tried to delete her. 5 years earlier, Amara Okoye was the best trauma surgeon in Kobe. Everyone in that hospital knew it. None of them would say it out loud. She was foreign. She was black. She was a woman. 3 strikes in a place that liked its heroes to look a certain way. So she kept saving people, quietly, while the credit walked out on other men's coats. One night in winter they brought in a man no other hospital would touch. He had 2 wounds and a name that made administrators find urgent reasons to be elsewhere. He was Yakuza. Anyone could see it. The ink ran from his collar to his wrists. In Japan, a body like that gets turned away everywhere. Clinics, banks, hotels. Help. The on-call chief looked at the tattoos and remembered paperwork 3 floors up. Amara looked at the wound. She took him into her theater and worked on him for 6 hours. At one point, half awake and gray, he asked her why. Why him? The whole city had a rule about men like him. She was breaking it. She did not stop moving her hands. She said, "I don't ask what a man is before I decide he's worth saving." Then she told him to be quiet and let her work. His name was Kaito Mori. He did not forget the sentence. Remember it. It comes back. He came back too. Flowers first, which she threw out. Then just himself in the hospital canteen at 3 in the morning, because that was when she ate. He was not what she expected. Under the fear, he was quiet and careful and starved for one person who wanted nothing from him. She was the first thing in his life he had not paid for or taken. They married the next autumn. She thought she was marrying a man who loved her. She was. That was never the problem. The problem was everyone standing behind him. The family did not want her. A foreign wife was an embarrassment. A foreign wife darker than anyone who had ever come through that gate was a scandal they had to swallow. They swallowed it in front of Kaito. They spat it out the moment he left the room. They had small cruelties for her. She was never entered in the family register. On paper, she was no one's wife. At the formal dinners, she sat last, below cousins, below men who counted crates for a living. When she spoke, the table found other things to look at. And there was Fujimoto. Fujimoto was the underboss, old, patient, building something. He had a daughter named Rin, and a plan that ended with Rin married to Kaito and his own line 1 heartbeat from the head of the family. Amara stood exactly where his plan needed empty space. So Fujimoto went to work on her the way water works on stone. At the New Year gathering in her 2nd year, in front of the whole family, he said it out loud. A wife who could give the family no son was not a wife but a guest. They had waited 2 years and seen no child. A bloodline could not be hung on a foreign woman who could not do the one thing a wife is for. He said it gently. That was the worst part. He said it the way you mentioned the weather. The room did not defend her. Kaito was not there to hear it. Fujimoto had chosen his moment, and the ants studied their plates and let it land. What none of them knew was that Amara was already 4 days late. Here is what Kaito did not know for 5 years. Fujimoto did not wait for nature. He built the ending he needed. He had papers drawn up. A fertility report, forged on a foreign clinic's letterhead with Amara's name on it. It said she could never carry a child. He had ruined people for a living for 40 years, and he was thorough. He brought the report to Kaito at his rawest hour. A war with a rival house. 3 of his men in the ground that month. The line needed an heir, Fujimoto said, and the doctor could not give one. And there was worse. She had known. She had known before the wedding and married him anyway, for the safety a boss's name gives a foreign woman with a dangerous job. It was a lie stacked on a lie. But grief makes a man easy to lie to. Fujimoto did not stop there. The same week, alone, he told Amara a different story, that Kaito had agreed to set her aside for a marriage that served the family. That a woman in her position who did not disappear quietly tended to disappear loudly. He slid divorce papers across the table, already sealed with Kaito's mark. A mark he could produce whenever he pleased. He set money beside them. The kindest thing she could do for the man she loved, he said, was to be gone before she made him choose. She did not take the money. She took the papers and her coat, and she left the city that night. She was 6 weeks pregnant. She did not yet know it. She found out in a clinic in another prefecture, alone 3 weeks later. The technician went quiet, then counted again, then turned the screen. 3 heartbeats, fast as sewing machines. Amara sat in that dim room and made the hardest choice of her life. She did not tell him. By then she believed the story Fujimoto had sold her, that Kaito had chosen the family over her. And she knew what 3 heirs would mean to a house like that. Not sons. Assets, leverage, children raised in a world that had already taught her how it treats the people it owns. She decided her boys would grow up somewhere the word Yakuza never touched them. She decided they would be hers. She moved south. She took a post at a small hospital where no one knew her married name. She had 3 sons in one long, impossible night. She raised them in a bright, loud apartment that smelled of miso and crayons, and she was, against everything, happy. They were called Sora, Haru, and Ren. Identical and completely different. Sora watched everything and said little. Haru laughed before he understood the joke. Ren was the smallest, born last, fighting hardest. When she was sad, he pressed his whole warm hand flat on her face, as if he could push the sadness back in. They all had the same eyes, a specific dark, with a soft fold at the corner. Their father's eyes. She saw him in them every morning, and she learned to be glad of it. What Amara did not know was that one man in that family had never believed she left for money. Kaito's father. The old Oyabun. His name was Shir, and he was dying. Shir had liked her, really liked her. The only one who had. A foreign doctor who walked into his family and refused to be afraid of it reminded him of himself, 60 years gone. When she vanished, the story never sat right in him. So in his last year he sent a quiet man to find the truth. The man found her. And 3 boys with the old grandfather's eyes. The old man wept. Then he got angry. Then he made a plan of his own. Because Fujimoto had finally won. Kaito, hollowed out, done with love, had agreed to the marriage the family wanted. Rin would be his wife. The wedding was set for a spring afternoon in the estate garden. 400 guests. The whole underworld of Western Japan come to watch Fujimoto's line marry into the head of the house. Sheer let the invitations go out. He let Fujimoto believe the clock had run out, and he sent one more invitation, by hand, that no one else knew about. He asked Amara to come. Not for revenge, he wrote, for an old dying man who wanted to meet his grandsons once, and to set a thing right before the end. He did not tell her it was the wedding day. He was afraid she would not come. He told her only the address and the hour. She almost didn't go. Ren had been up with a fever. The drive was 4 hours. The past was a country she had promised never to visit. But it was an old man asking for the truth. And she had built her whole life on not leaving people on the table. So she dressed her 3 sons in their good clothes, and she drove north, and she walked up to a gate she had sworn never to see again. She had no idea what waited on the other side. The ceremony had already started. She came through the gate at the worst possible moment, and the most perfect one. 400 people in rows, white chairs on white gravel. Kaito at the front in black, older, harder, hey stranger wearing her husband's face. Rin beside him in white. Fujimoto in the first row, serene, watching his life's work finish itself. And then a child's voice, too young to know where it stood, said, "Mama, is this the party?" Heads turned. The turning spread like a crack across ice. Kaito turned last. He saw a woman he had spent 5 years trying to hate. She stood at the back of his wedding in a plain blue dress. And he saw, holding her hands and hiding in her skirt, 3 small boys in matching collars, looking up at 400 strangers with his own eyes. He froze. Whatever a man is supposed to do in that moment, he did none of it. He simply stopped. The most feared man in the west of Japan could not move and could not speak. His body had understood something before his mind would allow it. Those were his sons. Anyone with eyes could count and see it. 3. The exact number of the future they had sworn she could never give. The garden had gone so quiet you could hear the pines. Fujimoto stood up too fast. He started talking. "A trick," he said. "A con. A foreign woman with borrowed children come to shake down the family on its proudest day. Throw her out. Someone throw her out." No one moved. Because from the front row, slowly, on 2 canes and a quiet man's arm, the old Oyabun was rising to his feet. Cher crossed the gravel. It took a long time. Nobody breathed. He walked past his son, past the bride, past Fujimoto, all the way to the back, to the woman and the 3 boys, and in front of 400 witnesses, the head of the family lowered himself. He knelt to the height of the children. He looked at the smallest one, Ren, a long moment. Then he said, in a voice the whole silent garden could hear, "There he is. There's my father's face." Then he stood, turned to the crowd and told them the truth. All of it, the forged report. He had proof now. The real clinic contacted. The 2 lies told to 2 people to pry them apart. The 5 years Fujimoto had bought with a piece of paper. He named it plainly. A dying man has nothing left to fear, and nothing to spend but the truth. Kaito had not moved. He was looking at the 3 boys as if the ground had opened. When he finally spoke, his voice came out wrecked. He said her name. Only her name. Amara, like a question he had been too proud to ask for 5 years. Fujimoto ran out of room the way a rat runs out of floor. He tried the family. "Family is family," he said. "Blood is blood." But he had forged the seal of the head of the house. There is no crime more final in that world. Sheer did not raise his voice. He said one word. The men who had come to celebrate a wedding closed around Fujimoto instead, and walked him out through the same gate Amara had once been driven through. He was never again a man anyone in that world would name. Rin stood in her white dress in the wreckage of a marriage she had also never chosen, and Amara, who knew exactly what it was to be used as another person's game piece, was the only one in that whole garden who went to her and took her hand. They had told Amara she could give the family nothing. No child, no heir, no future. She had given it 3. The aunts who once found their plates so interesting could not look away now. The register that had never held her name would hold 4. And the men of the family, one by one, the whole silent garden of them, turned toward the woman in the plain blue dress and the 3 boys with the old line in their eyes. And they bowed, not to Kaito, to them. Kaito came to her last, slowly, like a man walking toward a fire he knew he had earned. He had no right to ask for anything. He did not ask. He only got down where his sons could see him, level with them, and said he was sorry. In the small, broken voice of a man 5 years too late. Amara looked at him a long time. She could have turned around. The car was right there. She had built a whole good life on the far side of that gate. She owed this place nothing. But Ren, her smallest, her fighter, reached out and pressed his whole warm hand flat on his father's face. The way he did to her when she was sad, as if he could push something back in. And Amara heard her own voice from 5 years ago, from a night in a cold theater with a stranger dying on the table. I don't ask what a man is before I decide he's worth saving. She had said it once about a body full of holes. She looked at him now, on his knees between their sons, and she decided the way she decided everything, carefully and all at once. A man is not what was done to him, or what he was lied into. A man is what he does when the truth finally reaches him. She did not forgive him that day. Forgiveness is not a moment. It is a long road. They would walk it slowly, and some of it would be hard. But she let him stand. She let him meet his sons. She let the road begin. That was 3 years ago. The boys are 7 now. Some weekends they ride bikes on the white gravel in the hills above Kobe, which horrifies the men who guard it. Shur lived long enough to teach Sora to fish, to hold Haru's report card in his shaking hands, to hear Ren call him grandfather. When he went knowing his line ran true. Kaito is a different man now, quieter, softer at the edges, a father learning late and working at it daily. He and Amara are not what they were. They are something more careful, and on the good days, something better. Fujimoto, no one speaks of. People love the part where he froze. They ask her if it felt like winning. Watching the man who let her go lose his breath at the sight of her, she tells them the truth. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like being seen. Finally, completely, in front of everyone who had agreed not to look. Here is the thing that world never learns. They think you can erase a person. Strike a name from a book. Buy a silence. Forge a paper and rewrite what happened. They think the ones they throw away stay thrown. They don't. Sometimes the future you were told you could never have is already asleep in the next room. Breathing softly, with your enemy's whole plan resting in 3 small pairs of eyes. Never tell a woman what she cannot give this world. She may already be raising the answer, and one bright spring afternoon, she may walk it right through your gate. If one moment in this stopped you, the child's voice, the old man kneeling in the gravel, the smallest boy's hand on his father's face, tell me which one in the comments. I want to know what stayed with you. And if you know someone who was written off and came back standing, send this to them tonight. Some people need to hear that the ones who were thrown away are not gone. They are just somewhere you forgot to look. Getting ready.